The ANC has launched a crowdfunding campaign to help it pay its employees' salaries. The party also shared a poster on social media asking for contributions. The ANC insists it's not in trouble despite sending a letter to staff that monthly wages will be delayed. Let's bring in the ANC NEC member Dakota Legoete, who also speaks on behalf of this organization. Mr. Legoete, thank you so much for making time. Let's start with the sad news coming this afternoon on the passing away of the MKMVA president, the disbanded MKMVA president, Kebby Maphatsoe. Condolences to you as the ANC. How did you receive the news as the organization?
Thank you very much, Clement. To all the viewers at home and all the listeners of eNCA, let me take this opportunity to send our revolutionary greetings. Look, for us as the African National Congress, the loss of Comrade Kebby Maphatsoe, it's a terrible loss for us as the movement, in particular the period when Comrade Kebby and some of his comrades who are ex-combatants of Mkondo Wesizwe, which was the military wing of the African National Congress, were preparing for MKMVA Veterans Unification and National Conference. And this is a terrible loss indeed to our movement. On behalf of the African National Congress, on behalf of MKMVA and all ex-combatants of Mkondo Wesizwe, we want to dip down our revolutionary banners in honor of this gallant soldier of our movement for his passing. We want to send our condolences to his family, but most also to his ex-combatants and all comrades of Mkondo Wesizwe Military Veterans Association who are still around. We feel very strong that the loss of one life is a loss to many.
Mm-hmm. What are you able to share with us? When did you find out? Was he sick? Was he in hospital? What are you able to share with our viewers?
Look, we only received the message now during lunchtime. We said to ourselves that as an organization, we need to give the family first an opportunity to meet on their own. And once they have met and we have a line of a message that we need to communicate, we'll do so. But for now, the matter is still in the hands of the family. It's still fresh. It's not even over 2 hours. And they would not want to make any serious comments or any matter before we are given instruction by the family, because the family is the only authority that has burial rights.
No, absolutely. Let's talk about why we invited you for this discussion, to get an update on the crowdfunding campaign that you launched as the ANC. How are your members and supporters responding? How is that doing?
So far, so good, Clement. Our members and the public at large has responded positively towards this particular campaign. What we have done further, because of the positivity we have received, it was also to request members of the public as well as members of the ANC to download crowdfunding at anc1912.org.za a form where they can sign off for a debit order to assist their organization. You would know the reason why we go the route of crowdfunding as the African National Congress is that every member, when they join, there is a clause in our oath of membership that says that the African National Congress, I quote, it's an instrument of liberation in the hands of our people. Now, I close quote. The real owners of the African National Congress are its people, are its masses, and South Africans at large. And that's why, for now, it would depend on all South Africans, on all members of the ANC, to assist their movement, which is an instrument that needs to bring change to their lives, to also assist so that we are not trapped in what you saw going through in Zondo Commission. We are not trapped also in allegations that we have abandoned our historical mission as enshrined in the Freedom Charter, but also to pursue a point of policy sovereignty so that we must not look like an organization that has been like a pay-as-you-go.
Do you think you were that organization in the past because you depended heavily on donations from businesses, some of which, in fact, I would argue most of which were doing business with the state? Were you that organization in the past?
No, it does not mean that we were such an organization. That's why I was clear that there was an allegation. Now, you see, allegations sometimes can become perceptions, and perceptions can grow to become something real. And if you saw the optics in the Zondo Commission, they were not very good for us as an organization. And I think we had to think deep and among strategies that we are bringing forward to the nation and to all people so that we are transparent, we are self-correcting, and we become clean also as an organization, is to bring crowdfunding where members of the ANC will assist in the drive to ensure that the organization is run well off in a transparent manner. And all those people who help the organization are people who are ordinary masses of our people on the streets.
I just want to correct
myself, yourself.
Sorry, Mr. Lechueta. I wanted to correct that it wasn't just the allegations at the state capture inquiry. Some of it actually has been confirmed by some of your officials. There's money from businesses that flow to your officials, and your officials have confirmed, but they've said that was the money that was intended for the ANC, which is why I was indicating that there are some businesses that used to donate to the organization, that used to do business with the state, and they used to inflate prices and go into corrupt deals. Tenders were being rigged so that they can get these tenders and they can give kickbacks to the African National Congress.
Look, I would not wholly agree with the point you are raising. Those officials of the ANC who said that some of them, it was clear that some of these monies which they claim to have raised for the African National Congress, they use for their own personal gain. So in that regard, we can't take the responsibility. But we're also not going to deny, like all other parties, that we have received, and there was a stage where we had donations from private business people, who some of them were doing business with government, but there was no way that as the ANC, we influence or were involved in any bid processes, because we do not see there, we are not part of the people who makes decisions.
Okay, here's an example. The former health minister, who was the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, he received money from Edwin Sodi. You know about Edwin Sodi. You know he's facing charges currently out of a case in the Free State, right? They went and got a tender that was supposed to do work. They never even got to do that work, and yet over 100 million rand, in fact more, went into their pockets. Zweli Mkhize said the money that he received from Edwin Sodi was for the African National Congress. That's money that's dirty, Mr. Lechueta. It comes from the asbestos project, from tender irregularities. That's just one example of your former Treasurer General confirming that he's received money from this businessman who's currently facing charges of corruption.
Yeah, it would be very incorrect of me to speak on a matter that is before the court of law. I'm not an administrator of justice and law as part of the judiciary. So we are a political party, like all other political parties. That's why I've acknowledged that indeed we have received monies from some of private people and business people. When somebody has done a deal with government or somebody has cut a deal with government, we do not make an investigation when that particular person becomes generous to us as an organization. We appreciate, we accept, as all political parties do. And in the case that such monies, it's proceeds of corrupt act, it's only administrators of law and justice who can establish that particular fact. For now, as the ANC, we will not take the responsibility that we accepted dirty money, and it would be premature for us to say anything is dirty unless it's confirmed by a court order or by judgment.
Yeah, maybe you need to change that approach, because there's due diligence that as an organization you can do to ensure that you're not just taking money from anywhere. You do your due diligence to ensure that the money that you're receiving, even if it's from legitimate businesses, it's not dirty money, it's not coming from businesses that have done business with government and are facing charges, some of those businessmen, of being involved in tender irregularities and of corrupt deals with the same government?
Yeah, it would be correct if we put matters into correct perspective. When you asked for assistance from a person or from a body corporate, as a political party, in most instances, not only the ANC, all political parties would not be in a position to do due diligence, because some of the monies we ask for them based on an event. And when that particular event comes and the date is closer, there's not even any point where you can make a due diligence to establish whether this money is dated or what. But besides, we live in a constitutional democracy. In a constitutional democracy, the court is the final arbiter of any dispute in society. So even if you were to make due diligence, in some instances, you would not be in a correct position to establish whether this was dirty money or what. We would not want to deny the fact that some of these particular business people are alleged to be unscrupulous. Okay. Some of them would have to undergo processes of law, and for now, we would not want to second-guess the court of law.
Yeah, I want to quickly, because we're running out of time, why wasn't your first option to ask your deployees in government to donate to the ANC? Because almost everything of theirs is subsidized. I'm sure they can donate part of their salaries.
That is actually done through the levies which we receive every month. But so far, the cost to company, it has grown so much with events that came in, with elections that we hold in between every 5 years of local government and national elections, but also with a national conference, a national policy conference, and national general council, a number of activities which are required by our constitution. So the cost of company for the African National Congress, they've increased. And the problem is that we have had a situation where even our seats at the National Assembly and other parts of legislatures have reduced, and the contributions went down. We must acknowledge that with the current form of fundraising, we had to change it. And that's why we are bringing a new strategy of crowdfunding, so that we give over to members of the ANC to be in charge to ensure that the organization runs properly, but secondly, to ensure that the organization has policy sovereignty and it can run its own affairs from the pocket of its members, rather than from individuals who would have expectations, and some of those expectations has a potential to bring the organization to disagreement.
And just lastly and quickly, Mr. Legoete, if you can pay salaries now, how are you going to run an election campaign? If elections are going to be held in October, are you going to rely on crowdfunding to finance your election campaign? That's not cheap. I think in 2016 you spent, what, almost R1 billion?
Indeed, elections are not a cheap process, and that's why the African National Congress would be approaching Parliament to look at the possibility of increasing political party funding, not only for ourselves, but for all parties, so that it becomes the responsibility of all of us in South Africa, as ratepayers, as taxpayers, as people, that we fund our own democracy and ensure that all parties are held accountable, justifiably so and correctly so. And that's why, for now, as the African National Congress, we may be facing financial challenges, but it's not necessarily that we are out of the game. We're not bankrupt. There are other sources that we are looking at. Crowdfunding is one of them, but we also have our own internal sources and assets that we are looking at, and how best we can utilize them so that we can meet our liabilities. But I can tell you, our staff members need to stand resolute. We are working on the matter. I think we'll be coming back to them very soon to sort out this particular matter once and for all. And I can tell you the future of South Africans looks bright under the African National Congress.